immediately. First, look at this. Instantly into the game. Instantly. Immediately. They had a target to hurt Sophie. She was targeted by this team.
What you're about to see will make you question everything you thought you knew about player safety in the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham's knee just got destroyed in broad daylight, and her family is absolutely furious. This wasn't just another basketball play gone wrong. This was something much darker, and the aftermath has sent shockwaves through the entire league.
Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty player. Can continue to survive these things. Here you see Sophie Cunningham laid out on the floor, holding her knee. The lady was in tears, crying as Lexi Hall approached her to help her.
The scene that unfolded during the Indiana Fever's game against the Connecticut Sun was nothing short of horrifying. Sophie Cunningham, one of the toughest players in the league, was driving toward the basket when Bria Hartley came crashing into her knee like a wrecking ball. The sound of the impact could be heard throughout the arena, but what happened next was even worse. Sophie immediately grabbed her patella and collapsed to the floor in tears, clutching her leg as medical staff rushed to her aid.
Watch out for Bria Hartley because she's a dirty ass player.
Happening to Sophie, and fans can't bear to see it.
This is Hartley right here coming
she tries
in.
To slide over right there, and Hartley just kind of falls
and
and
she
crushes
in
immediately
on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down.
Just sums up everything. Like, we weren't going to win this game if Sophie Cunningham was healthy. This isn't like, oh, we lost because of a Sophie Cunningham injury. We were down 17 points when she got injured. This happens.
Here's where things get absolutely insane. This wasn't Hartley's first rodeo with dirty plays. We're talking about a player who's built an entire reputation around controversial incidents. Just weeks ago, she yanked Angel Reese out of midair by her ponytail like it was some kind of WWE match. Days before Sophie went down, she grabbed Rebecca Allen by the head and slammed her to the ground, earning herself an ejection. Multiple ejections, countless cheap shots, and a rap sheet that reads like a highlight reel of chaos. Critics aren't holding back anymore. They're flat out calling her the dirtiest player in the league.
And it looked like Stephanie White is extremely emotional after this hard-fought game. Sophie Cunningham family is extremely pissed off. It's just emotional, guys. I'm hella mad. Hartley need to be suspended on a major level completely. Probably at this point, she's more dirtier than Dejanay Carrington.
But Sophie's family wasn't about to stay quiet about this disaster. Her sister Lindsay absolutely torched the WNBA on social media, telling the league to stop worrying about finding players for random comments and start actually protecting their athletes. Her mother Paula went even harder, calling Hartley a disgruntled player who has trouble everywhere she goes and plays completely out of control. When families get this vocal and this angry, you know something is seriously broken.
They wanted to hurt Sophie. They made it their business to hurt Sophie, and that's exactly what they did, was hurt Sophie, and I'm hella mad.
What makes this situation even more devastating is the timing. The Fever were already down 17 points when Sophie got hurt. 17. They were getting demolished by one of the weakest teams in the league, and then their toughest defender, the one person willing to scrap and fight for Caitlin Clark, gets taken out by what many are calling a targeted attack. Medical experts who analyzed the footage said there's basically zero chance Sophie returns this season. Zero. Her patella injury could be a fracture or rupture, which means she's done until next year.
Sophie's sister Lindsay and her mom Paula. At WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game, protect your athletes.
And here's the kicker. This is Sophie's second major injury this season, and both happened against the Connecticut Sun. Both of them. At some point, that stops being a coincidence and starts looking like a pattern. Sophie had been the Fever's best mid-season addition, bringing the defense and intensity this team desperately needed. She was the one hyping up Caitlin Clark when nobody else would even try to stand up for her. Now that's all gone. Wiped out in seconds by a player with a history of ending careers. Speaking of Caitlin Clark, the league's supposed savior has played only 13 games all season because of her own injury struggles. Think about that for a second. The most hyped rookie rookie in WNBA history, the face plastered on every billboard the player networks can't stop talking about, has missed over 75% of the year. While Sophie was crying on the hardwood, Clark was sitting on the sidelines, probably wondering if it's even worth coming back to this train wreck of a season.
And Sophie's mother, Paula Hartley, is a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes. She's playing mean and plays out of control.
It's a patella injury. Normally, people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury. It looks like she might have either ruptured her patella.
The real question everyone's asking is, where the hell is the WNBA in all this chaos? Where are the suspensions? Where's the accountability? Fans are so disgusted with the league's handling of player safety that some are actually calling for a civil rights investigation into the officiating culture. A civil rights investigation in a basketball league. That's how completely out of control this has become. When your stars are dropping like flies every week and dangerous players keep getting away with career-ending hits, you're not running a basketball league anymore. You're running a demolition derby with sneakers. The Fever managed to scrape out a win in overtime, but does anyone actually feel like they won anything? They barely beat one of the league's weakest teams, needed extra time to do it, and lost their best defender in the process. That's not a victory. That's a disaster with a misleading final score. The box score might look decent, but the reality is this team is cursed, and the WNBA seems perfectly fine letting it happen.
Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very unfortunate, man.
What's really terrifying is that this could be the beginning of the end for the Indiana Fever's season, and maybe even for trust in the league itself. Sophie's gone for the year, Caitlin's barely played, and fans are losing faith fast. The WNBA has created an environment where players like Hartley can run wild week after week with no real consequences, where officiating is so inconsistent that families are calling for federal investigation, and where the league's biggest stars spend more time in the medical room than on the court. The only question now is whether Caitlin Clark decides to risk her career for this absolute mess, or if she stays on the sidelines and lets the league deal with the chaos it created. Either way, the WNBA is sitting on the edge of a cliff, and Sophie Cunningham's devastating injury might just be the push that sends everything tumbling down.
Sophie Cunningham out for the year. How can this team continue to survive? We bring in Ari McDonald because of injuries, and who would have thought? Caitlin Clark would be out most of the year. Sophie Cunningham will have a season-ending injury.
But here's what the league doesn't want you to know. This isn't just about Sophie and Caitlin. This is about a systematic failure that's been brewing for months. Look at the numbers and you'll see something absolutely terrifying. The injury rate among star players this season is through the roof compared to previous years. We're talking about a pattern that suggests the WNBA has completely lost control of player safety protocols. What makes this even more explosive is the timing of everything. Sources close to the Fever organization are whispering about internal discussions regarding whether it's even safe for their players to continue the season. Can you imagine that? A professional sports team actually debating whether to forfeit games because they can't guarantee their athletes won't get hurt. That's not basketball anymore. That's gladiator combat with a scoreboard.
I told you guys this girl was a dirty player. And that's all she did today was show how dirty she is. This is unfortunate. I don't know how the Indiana Fever, she is a dirty player. She pulled Angel Reese out of air by her ponytail. Angel Reese is ready to fight. Just last game, I think 2 days ago,
The financial implications are staggering too. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just another player on the roster, she was a marketing goldmine for the Fever. Her jersey sales were through the roof, her social media engagement was driving sponsorship deals, and her chemistry with Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the foundation for the team's future. Now all of that is gone, wiped out by one reckless play from a player who shouldn't even be on the court. And let's talk about what this means for rookies and young players coming into the league. If you're a college star watching Sophie get carted off the floor in tears while officials stand around doing nothing, are you really going to be excited about your WNBA future? The league is supposed to be growing, expanding, attracting new talent. Instead, they're creating an environment so dangerous that parents are probably telling their daughters to consider overseas opportunities instead.
I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's her Achilles, the way she was kind of dragging her foot. I don't know. But Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season. But you got to know who we're talking about.
The referees in this game were absolutely useless, and that's being generous. Multiple obvious fouls went uncalled throughout the night. Players were getting hammered with no whistles, and when the Sophie injury happened, the officials looked like deer in headlights. One referee was literally staring at his shoes while Sophie was screaming in pain on the floor. These are supposed to be professional officials, but they looked like they'd never seen a basketball game before in their lives. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has been completely silent about this disaster, which tells you everything you need to know about the league's priorities. While Sophie's family is demanding answers and fans are calling for investigations, the person who's supposed to be leading this organization is nowhere to be found. No statements, no accountability, no plan to prevent this from happening again. It's like watching a ship sink while the captain hides in their cabin.
Reality, you know, because she is somebody's daughter, she is somebody's sister, and this is just unfortunate. And those of you who don't think a civil rights investigation need to be brought upon this league is tripping. This civil rights investigation.
What's really mind-blowing is how the Connecticut Sun handled the aftermath. Instead of showing any remorse or concern for Sophie's well-being, they celebrated like they just won the championship. Players were high-fiving, coaches were smiling, and Bria Hartley walked off the court like she just completed a normal basketball play instead of potentially ending someone's career. The lack of sportsmanship and basic human decency was absolutely disgusting to witness. The medical team's response was equally concerning. Sophie was on the floor for what felt like an eternity before anyone with actual medical training reached her. In a league that's supposed to prioritize player safety, having inadequate medical response times is completely unacceptable. Every second Sophie spent writhing in pain was another second of potential permanent damage to her knee.
Do you think the refs called any fouls? No, they didn't. These refs are clowns. These referees are clowns.
Social media exploded after the incident, and the reactions were unlike anything we've seen in women's basketball. Fans were posting side-by-side videos comparing Hartley's hit on Sophie to some of the dirtiest plays in sports history. The footage went viral within hours, racking up millions of views and thousands of comments demanding justice. Even former WNBA players started speaking out, with several veterans saying they'd never seen anything like this in their careers. The broader implications for women's sports are terrifying to consider. The WNBA was supposed to be experiencing a golden age with increased viewership, better sponsorships, and more mainstream attention than ever before. But how can the league capitalize on that momentum when their biggest stars are spending more time in hospitals than on highlight reels? Sponsors don't want to be associated with a league that can't protect its athletes, and fans don't want to invest emotionally in players who might get their careers ended by dirty hits.
Lexi Hull hit a big three that was the dagger at the end. Aaliyah Boston, 7 of 13, 14 points, 13 boards, a double-double there, added 5 assists.
In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged, hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor, 75 feet away from the rim.
What happened to Sophie could be the defining moment that forces the WNBA to completely overhaul how they handle player safety, officiating standards, and disciplinary action. Or it could be the beginning of the end for a league that had so much potential but couldn't figure out how to protect the very people who make it special. The choice is theirs, but time is running out fast. The Indiana Fever season has become a cautionary tale about what happens when a professional sports league loses control. Every game feels like watching a car crash in slow motion, where you know something terrible is going to happen, but you can't look away. The team that was supposed to be building around Caitlin Clark and creating a championship culture has instead become a symbol of everything wrong with the WNBA.
Kathy Engelbert, wake the hell up. Half of your league is hurt now. Who would have thought? How do the Indiana Fever, Bria Hartley, you are a dirty, low-down dog of a player, you. Wonder why there's so many goddamn injuries all over the league, because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game.
And through it all, Caitlin Clark sits on the bench, watching her teammates get destroyed while she recovers from her own injuries. You have to wonder what she's thinking as she sees Sophie carted off the floor. Is she counting down the days until she can request a trade? Is she reconsidering her commitment to a league that clearly can't or won't protect its players? The answers to those questions could determine not just the future of the Indiana Fever, but the entire trajectory of women's professional basketball. The league better wake up fast, because at this rate, there won't be any stars left to protect. Sophie Cunningham's injury isn't just a tragedy, it's a warning shot that the WNBA can't afford to ignore.